Yeah, so my name's Alexis, and I seem to be a communicator. That's what seems to be happening. I'm not a teacher. I'm not sort of classed as a teacher or someone who's instructing or giving people teachings or practices, advice, instructions, guidelines at all. What seems to be exposed, although the suggestion is it's not actually coming from me, there is no me. The suggestion that seems to come out of this exposure is that all there is nothing being everything. All there is nothing apparently happening. Now, those words may seem to sound very similar to other bodies, like Tony and Jim, Tony Parsons, Jim Newman. This is what's considered non-duality. It gets called non-duality. Non-duality is, well, it's not two. That's simply what it means. And that's the exposure, is that there is no two, there is no separation. There is no subject and object already. There's no real distance or separation already. It's an alreadiness, the exposure of what is already. So there's already no separate self to be separate. There's no self that's in the body that is actually driving the body and making it go in a certain direction. There is no real now and then either. There's no real here and there either. There's no separation really on any level. There just is immediacy. And immediacy is total. It's all there is. It's all encompassing. It's totally free. It's boundless, and therefore it's without direction. It's this, really. It's this which is all there is. And this which is all there is nothing. It's not a thing. It's not objectifiable. It's not subjectifiable. It's just nothing. It's nothing at all. All there is nothing apparently happened.
What happened to you? What happened?
Yeah. Quite simply, I died without meaning to sound overly dramatic or, sort of dynamic or anything. The whole sense of there being a you or a me just completely collapsed. It was revealed for its illusory nature that in the first place that it never actually was a reality to collapse, so no one really dies. But the whole sense of there being a person in a body was exposed as artificial. And then what's left, only apparently what's left, is what's happening. But there's just no sense that it's happening to anyone, for anyone, with anyone, or by anyone. We can tell stories and stuff which might make Alexis sound special, but there's no sense of specialness really without that experience and expression of separation. But for the sake of stories and, for the fun of it, without meaning to indulge or wanting to indulge in that. Yeah, there was, in a timeline, there were moments where it felt like there was a sense of someone here listening and talking, autonomously controlling the body and going around having a lifetime, a lifespan, a personal life and experience. And then there were other moments in the day where there was less of a sense of that, or there was no sense of that at all. And from in that story, in that storyline, which is fictional, it's not actually factual, it's fictional. There was seeking for something greater, for something more, for something wholesome. And this is where, seeking is really, a very personal experience. So it's seeking in spirituality, it's seeking in religion, it's seeking in materialism, it's seeking all the time for something else. And then it went from teacher to teacher, tried different practices, got into different traditions and things like that. And then eventually it wasn't satisfied with any of that because there was still this kind of, not okayness with what's appearing to happen. And then it finally discovered someone who wasn't telling me what to do at all, wasn't even talking to me. Wasn't even acknowledging that there was a me in the first place that could do anything or go anywhere or achieve anything. So then what was revealed was kind of obvious, really. It just wasn't knowable, but stunningly and paradoxically, it was obvious. It's obvious that what you, so-called you, have been longing for this whole time is already. It can't be limited by being in a future. It can't be limited by being in a state. It can't be limited to an experience. So it could never be achieved. And this was kind of obvious, really. It seemed kind of obvious that this is what every tradition and religion is trying to point to, but they're pointing to it in dualistic means. So that's the predicament for these paths, really. And they're trying to talk to someone which isn't actually there. And so when that exposure came along, it was, well, for this organism, it seemed like a godsend. And then the whole sense of the whole existential disease just kind of, well, it seemed to illusorily collapse. And yes, there were apparent moments where there was just nothing and no one. But the whole collapse is as illusory as the person to collapse. Yeah. It's a kind of, in a way, a passionate aliveness that comes out of nowhere and nothing. It's just it's kind of dynamic and free. Everything is that, really. Everything is dynamically, freely expressing. The trees, the plants, the wildlife, nature, the cosmos, it's all just freely, passionately, vibrantly expressing for no reason. It's glorious. Yeah.
Is it infectious, at least? I mean, are you going around infecting other people? Are they having a reaction to being exposed?
Well, that might seem to happen, but that's the way it looks like for an experience, because the experience is living in a reality of separation. And in that reality of separation, cause and effect seem to be an absolute reality, that's absolute, totally real and solid. That there are separate things that are causing and affecting each other. So, for example, Alexis goes to Prague last weekend, talks a lot about nothing, and all these people show up. Some of them may be wondering what the hell that was all about. and others are feeling like, yeah, something's really happening here, and that there's a resonance. But and it can seem like that, but that of course all implies cause and effect. And what's being exposed is that there are no separate things really to be causing and affecting. And so the whole experience of cause and effect is also collapsing. So there's nothing to cause the collapse of the end of cause and effect. So it's not speaking to that separate reality. It's exposing it for its illusory nature, which is why this can't be described. It can't be comprehended. But it perhaps looks like that's what's happening from a separate point of view. That if I come to meetings, I'll receive something, or there will be a change. Yeah, it's more like a train, a train stopping in its tracks, like pushing through the brick wall, but then eventually it hits something, and there is no other side. There's no other side of that brick wall, so it's totaled, meets its edge, which never was.
So, do you have some personal bodyguards if there's some dialectic disappointment from the people those listening to you?
No bodyguards yet. The one day a budget might allow for that, but not right now.
Yeah, it can be probably quite disappointing for those who look for something more touchable.
All the time there's a wanting to relate to something, whether it's a person, a place, an imagined event in the future, or a teaching, a practice, an initiation, or an altered state of body. All the time there's a wanting for something to relate to, whether it falls in on any of those categories or anything else that could be imagined. It's looking for validation, it's looking for acknowledgement, and it's looking for something to have, to own, to relate to, and to know. And there's no playing that game. There's no sort of saying, I've got something that you don't. There's no saying, I've lost something that you have. There's no meeting. There's no sort of relating. There's just an exposure of immediacy, which is all there is. So yeah, that can seem to be very disappointing, because there's nothing on offer. Yeah.
What is spirituality?
Well, spirituality is, for many, the appealing thing for those, for some, for many even, perhaps, for those who are sick of materialism, for those who are fed up of the so-called realm of the material senses, and they haven't found what they're looking for in subjects, in people, in television or sex or drugs or rock and roll, they haven't found what they're looking for in the so-called, materialism. So they search for that. So they search for that fulfillment in so-called spirituality, in spiritual circles. They look for it in religion, they look for it in books, in tantra, meditation, yoga, breathwork, qigong. They look for it wherever they can. They're scrambling around to find wholeness, really. That's the suggestion. Everyone that feels separate is seeking for wholeness. But the problem there is that they're seeking for it in things. So even spirituality just becomes another thing that I relate to as a person. Wholeness can't be found through any practice because wholeness is not separate. So there can't be a finding wholeness when it's already everything. So spirituality is just for those who are trying to look elsewhere. Yeah.
Are you still dealing with desires and fear?
I'm not dealing with anything. I'm just, dead. It's just what's happening. Yeah, I mean, everything seems to be reduced in a way, but then expanded at the same time to unconditional love. I mean, it's so extraordinary and yet totally ordinary. Everything is expanded to absolute extraordinary nothing, and everything is reduced to total simplicity. So the body maybe has preferences for certain foods and hanging out with certain people, and it maybe likes to do some exercises that it was conditioned to, but there's no sense that anyone's dealing with that someone is doing that. It's just what's happening. Yeah.
So come on, where's my exercise? There should be something to do.
Yeah, the dream
to get it.
The dream of me, which isn't real, always wants something to do. If it gets told what to do, it's validated that it's an entity that can do something. Yeah, and that's not acknowledged. No, there is no separate self to fall away already, and there is no separate self that could do something really. That whole, interpretation of free will and choice is a misinterpretation. It would seem to be an energy. It feels like energetically there's something or someone in the body that is driving the body, but that isn't actually someone. It's energy appearing in that form, and all the time it's told what it can do. It's the misinterpretation is being validated as a reality that is capable of going somewhere else. And that's feeding a resistance to what is. Because if I get an instruction to go somewhere else, then I'm validated that yes, there is something wrong that could be fixed or changed or solved or cured, and that I can go on a path somewhere else. But nirvana, so to speak, is unconditional. So it could never be moved towards or away from. It's all there is. It's everything. It's the suffering as well. It's the pain. It's the joy. It's absolute. It's everything. Yeah.
I'm driven to do this thing here with the YouTube channel. I'm talking to people, but eventually I have a lot of doubts. I think I see myself and I think, why do I try to tell anyone what to do or even suggest it? I mean, and but I'm still doing it. So I don't know. It brings me joy,
Yeah.
and it's like incredibly interesting. I must say. Come on, and you are also kind of busy. You're flying here and there and
exactly.
talking to people. So is it still useful, or should we like leave the world alone and just?
It's not useful, but there is no one to be doing. So the YouTube channels and the meetings and the interviews is all it's all nothing apparently happening. No one's doing it. But yeah, if it's joyful, it's joyful, then why not? But there's no one actually choosing to do this. There's no one running the body. It's all just spontaneously happening. So going around the world or traveling or conversing with people is all free to express as that. It's already not driven. So it just is what's appearing to happen. And if there's a joy for it, absolutely. Yeah, that's what's happening. The body wants to talk to people, get to know whatever, it's studying or not. It's all doing what it's doing without a doer.
And then the question arises.
Yeah.
So is there someone doing through us? Is there God? Is there Atman? Is there Brahman? Is it something like that?
It's more than that though, isn't it? It's that there is no doer. So there's no I that's not doing either. There's no I that is in control, and there is no I that's not in control. That I that feels like it's in control, or even feels like it's not in control, is not actually there. It's not actually there already. Yeah. So there is no I, me, you, us, we. There's no one. There is no persons. Yeah. Well, in a way, all of this is poetically singing and dancing freely. And, it's not just limited to this body and these words, however clunky or elegant or eloquent they might seem to be or not be. Yeah. It's all spouting. So, nature, art, beauty, music. The sounds of the birds, just like it's, and even the houses and the walls and the cars and the bricks, like it's all this vibrancy, singing, dancing freely for no reason. That's poetry. And that's not mine. There's no me to claim that. Just before it sounds like, that could be claimed as poetic. All is poetic. Yeah, it's just like this vibrancy in a way. I mean, that's a word that this seems to like. There's just kind of a vibrancy to everything. Everything is singing that song of freedom, and yet no one is listening.
When you talk to spiritual leaders or those who claim they know something, do you have sometimes this experience?
Well, I don't really speak to spiritual leaders, teachers, or students so much anymore, although sometimes people might come to meetings, with their conditioning and their characteristics and their wants to achieve something or, find something beyond this. But there's no real sense of there actually being anyone to be a leader, a teacher, an authoritative figure. There is the appearance of authority, you could say, but there's no sense that anyone is actually happening. So leaders and teachers aren't real. They're puppets in a way, but they're not being driven by anything. So the bodies and it's all the spice in a way. It's all the spice of this, appearing as teachers. It's just like a play, really. It's in a way it's a play. It's different characters showing up on a stage for no one. The world is a stage. Yeah.
So this is kind of, should we interfere or should we just look at it and run away?
Well, what's being exposed, although it's the most useless thing that could ever be heard, is that there is no one to intervene or to step aside. There is already no person and therefore personal free will to actually intervene, to interfere, to make things better or worse. This all only apparently goes on because there's no real time either, but this all apparently goes on without anyone say so. So that, whatever is happening is this simply without a drive already. So that's not useful because it's not giving any advice to anyone because it's not acknowledging there is anyone. However, bodies still, behave in certain ways, speak in certain ways, think in certain ways. Yeah. So this isn't offering practical information, to solve situations on this planet.
Yeah, we see that stuff and we think, well, these people are suffering, and maybe we are so trained from TV and the media that we kind of numb for empathy or something like that, and then we think, wow, this is bad.
It can seem all of this drama that is seeming to appear on the news in the so-called world, it is like a collective and individualistic expression of need not being met, really. There seems to be a lot of that going on. There's a need that's not being met, and a deep desire to meet that need, and it can't get enough. It can never get enough. It can never fill up the hole. It can't fill up the hole that it feels like is lacking. So it goes out and it abuses, or it uses, or it seeks. There's a need, but the need is not even the need is not actually appearing on behalf of anyone. It's what can't be comprehended. Yeah.
We have all these methods. There's like devotion, there's knowledge, there's maybe what's it called, discipline, which tries us to get somewhere, and it's kind of all, yeah, useless.
Well, it's part of a relative dream which is not really happening. This dream, this whole sense that there's ownership of anything, and that there's relationship to anyone or anything, and knowledge that is also owned, and also doership, that there's autonomy. All of those are part of the package of separation, and there is no real separation. So all of those pillars collapse. There's no separate self to know what's going on. There's no separate self to own anything. There's no separate self to relate to anything or anyone. And there's no separate self to do anything. All of this is already nothing apparently happening. I mean, it's too open and free and boundless to ever, that can't, like, that exposure, it's so boundless and absolute, could never be known or related to. Again, knowing, relating, owning is separate. So those words are incomprehensible.
Yeah, I like to judge now that it's a little bit mean, because we have our brain and we have our body and we try to do stuff, but actually all this, what appears to be real, is not.
Right, and the
and,
we.
and it doesn't help to recognize what's real.
No, that the we that would like to think it owns a body and a brain and a nervous system and opinions and beliefs and its own direction and its own ways of dealing with the world and relating to other people and trying to fix things, it's not there. It's not there. Yeah, it's already not there. And although that might seem quite, well, it might be interpreted as quite harsh and brutal to point that out, it without that sense of judgment and personal relating, which is again illusory, it's total compassion, which is completely incomprehensible. Like this is the compassionate exposure that you're already not separate. There is already no you. There is only unconditional love, but it's not love on anyone's terms and conditions. It's unconditional love. It's so free, but it swallows up an illusion that felt itself to be separate. Yeah.
Please save our souls. What about my soul?
There's no soul. There's no soul without continuity, and there's no soul without separateness. Yeah. There is only energy, in a way you could say. Energy, which is another word for nothing apparently happening. Energy is all, it's everything, and it's not a thing in and of itself, so it's nothing. It's nothing and it's everything. It can't be comprehended when it's all there is. There's nothing to step outside of that to comprehend it. So it's all encompassing, and that is all there is. So there's no space for souls in that when there's no separation. So souls is it's a very sweet idea that keeps a sense of separateness, feeling secure, that it won't have to be annihilated upon the last breath of the human body, because that gives it a sense of security even after the imagined death of the body. Gives it hope, direction.
The only thing that is real is unconditional love.
which is nothing. Yeah. It's not that there's no, it's, I mean, it's not a thing to be real, really. It's not a thing. Unconditional love's not a thing. So it's not real or unreal. It's everything and nothing.
Do you have any idea what happens when we die? Like the body dies, I mean, yeah. Well, so you already died, and it's wonderful you talking to me from the other side.
There's no other side. Yeah. The separate reality imagines sides, fences, shores. Yes, the other shore is a common phrase that I can, swim or I can paddle from one shore to the other. Gate, gate, paragate. On the other side, there will be the others, the awakened or enlightened or omniscient or illuminated ones. Yeah, there's no other shore or side. So there's no one already to fall away to die. No one lives or dies. There is only this freedom, which is everything. The sense that feels itself to be so real is the unreal. It's the unreal. And that's nothing. That's not made of anything. It's not made of anyone. It's nothing. And so there's no one to die. So there's nothing to be afraid of. Well, it's not recognized by anyone. So, again, looking around for that is experiential dream stuff. The compassion is exposing that all there is nothing, being everything, which is unconditional love. So that doesn't leave any room for a separate experience to stand on anything. There's no where to go with that. There's nothing to do with that, and there's not even anyone to be doing, going, or becoming or changing. So it's hopeless. It's useless. And it's totally futile and impractical. And yet this is openly exposing the alreadiness of what's longed for. And so it's so free. But the dream is too busy looking elsewhere for it. It's too busy looking around for something else or somewhere else.
Other people, they died as you died. Did you meet someone?
I spoke with Tony quite a bit, Tony Parsons. So we chatted, and I chatted with Jim Newman as well a little bit, and that was nice. It wasn't personally nice though. There was no sense of any of that being personal. It was so impersonal that it was so loving in a way, unconditional. I mean, unconditional love it can't be comprehended at all. Um, Only conditioned things seem to be comprehended, and that's not real. So there was such a love about that didn't care for the personal wants and needs of a separate dream that was never happening. Yeah.
So you do not care if people approve, disapprove, it doesn't matter at all.
Because it's already free, yes. I mean, the rejection and the ridicule and the resonance and the elation, it's all free, like equanimous. It's total. This is equal, like everything is equal, and yet there's no separateness to be equal. It's like everything is this. Yeah. Any response of any kind is totally free. Yeah. Well, essentially what's pointed out is that home is all, and home is already. This is home, and home is unconditional. The way home's being talked about is as though home is so free that it could appear as a child trying to run away from home. But home is unconditional, so there's never a running away from home, and therefore neither is there a coming back home, a returning home. There was never an away from home, and there is never anyone to be home either. There only seemed to be a sense that something was missing or lost, hidden or secret, but actually this freedom and this immediacy is already what's longed for. There's just no one to relate to it, to know it, own it, define it. It is total and it's nothing. It's simply everything and nothing. already.
Do you want to share like your website or something?
Yeah, so it's still a funny Sanskrit name for fun. It's yoginidakini.com. So yoginidakini.com. And there's I hold meetings each week and events in different places, and I'm free to chat to in the week, and I do one-to-ones and other things as well. Yeah, for those who are interested.
So you identify with that, or
Well, in a dream, there was a sense of identity as well, and this hopelessly collapsed, wonderfully hopelessly collapsed. Yeah, so there's no one to identify as anything. So it's all just free. Yeah, masculine and feminine is not two really already. Yeah, but there is kind of, I don't know, the characteristic of this body. It just seems to resonate with certain stories and things, and it likes it for fun. It's not sensed as having any real meaning to it, but there's just in the same way of enjoying a movie or a TV show or something. There's an enjoyment of these archetypal stories of the divine mother and the divine feminine, yeah, but also the divine masculine, yeah, as well.
yeah, it's when I look at the totality of these people running around and being so convinced that everything is real, then yeah, I feel inclined to like suggest to them that they might, yeah, they might living in a dream, the same like when we dream, you know.
They are the dream. Yeah, they are the dream. The individual is a dream. Yeah. So it'll never wake up from that. That's annihilation. No one wakes up on the other side of that dream. The whole awakening is the complete death of the dream of individuality, separation, and distance, which is unconditional love. Yeah. So Kali, really, we're talking about Kali as another apparent depiction of the divine feminine, completely brutally, without compromise, annihilates the dream of separation, exposes it for illusory nature already, and therefore there's no one to really have their skull around her neck, but that there's just this already, that's compassion, but the dream sees that as terror, as wrath, as something to run away from. So off it goes, seeking for its own immortalized, imagined state. But when it comes home, it meets her grace and yet her death, her brutal compassion, which is all there is. It's all there is. Everything is compassionately exposing. This is home. This is already home. Yeah. And yet there's just no one to be separate from that to hear it. So there's no one home. There's no one to listen out for that song. There just is this.
I can't brag about it with my friends.
No, it defies ownership. Yeah, totally. This defies ownership. Yeah, so wonderful, so free.
Yeah, my God, what a beautiful conversation. Probably. Thank you so much. And yeah, maybe we talk again another day.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Hans. Yeah, it's lovely to chat with you. Thanks for reaching out.